Welcome to Hairdressing Live. I'm Eugene Souleiman and I am hopefully going to show you some wonderful hair today. I want to take you guys through the journey of how my mind works, and I want us to do it together.
He's an inspiration to all the top hairdressers, you know, because he puts so much passion and time and creativity and invention into what he does that it's inspiring.
Today, this afternoon, we've been able to step into his world, and it's just been fantastic.
It's been a great day, lots of fun, lots of great colleagues, some top guns in the industry, super cool.
He's one of the greatest out there, so thank you, Eugene.
Thank you.
I now know why he's so special. It's not just his head with ideas, it's what he says. Coupled with the hair, he's a genius. And I'm glad he came from my camp.
Have we got a lovely model? Aha! So, I guess for me, I've spent a lot of time in the trade, and I've been lucky enough to have, I would say, my biggest mentor here, Mr. Trevor Soulby, who's taught me a lot. Thank you, and thank you for coming. Not worthy. I'm going to start this off by kind of breaking this. I wouldn't call it a seminar, I wouldn't call it a soiree, I don't know what I would call it, but this new way of communicating with other hairdressers. So I'm going to start off with, like you always do, an introduction. My introduction is going to come in the form of looks that I've created for Yohji Yamamoto and Alexander McQueen, but I'm going to revisit those looks. It's a little bit like when we're trained and we're taught, maybe we can spin around. When we're trained and we're taught techniques, and we always revisit those techniques in new ways, and that's really what I want to do for you guys today. I'm going to start off with probably one of my first ever fashion shows, which was an Alexander McQueen show, and the show was called The Birds, I do believe, and it was when there was a lot of kind of like lank, straight hair around, and I was particularly bored at that point in time, and I wanted to do something that I felt was rawer, that had more life to it, that could move, and that had this kind of angry kind of softness to it. Lee was quite an angry character, as we well know, and I think one of the true geniuses of fashion. I'm going to take the look from the birds, the texture of the back, and recreate the last show that I did for Lee McQueen as well, which was a show called The Witches of McCullen, which is basically about his relatives. His relatives were witches in Scotland and America. So it's kind of like this take on something being kind of quite raw, and also something that has a kind of period feel to it. So we're going to start off. As we know, our pin set, we've done this many times before, but there's a reason for this. What I want to do is I want to create something really very flat and hair that almost feels kind of aerodynamic, and it flows. So we're literally going to brush this out and keep our fingers crossed and really brush it out and get as much kind of static in the hair as possible. I'm really brushing this out. This is a Rick Rex pin set. That's been hit with the straightening irons just to create even more texture. It's really kind of like locked that movement in. We've obviously put some weave in the hair as well, just to really kind of like bulk this hair out and get it as graphic as possible. And this for me is kind of like really great kind of hair for a fashion show because it moves. And there's an emotion to it, which I really love. I love hair to kind of like have this kind of outer worldly kind of quality to it. And I think, right, the last show that I did for McQueen, I think Angelo was on, right? Yeah. Which was, you know, oh yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It was about the devil, right?
It was about the devil, yeah. And witches and you know, and it was one of those, I guess one of those shows that kind of will go down as one of his great. And I also kind of love imperfection in hair. I feel it kind of gives you a kind of human quality. I mean, I either love hair to feel really structured and perfect and almost not hair, which you're going to be seeing later on, or hair that feels like it's been touched by like the wilderness, nature, and hair that you're not afraid to touch, you know, hair that's not really sort of stuck. Now, I'm wondering if this is the lowest the chair can go to. It's either that or I'm going to be doing hair on a chair.
There you go.
Being the massive person that I am. The other thing I love as well is I kind of love contrast in hair. I love things that are kind of opposing one another. So it stands to reason that with this look, because we kind of have all this sort of this softness, this lightness, this static kind of frizzy kind of quality to the hair, that I want to do something that's really very structured and very clean, just to play off against that.
What have you prepped the hair with?
Literally, this is literally just hairspray, just to begin with. I'm going to finish off with a powder spray, which I'm going to spray into the ends, just to create, just to take any residue of any oil out of the hair, because I kind of want this hair to feel almost as if it's been lived in, and its kind of condition is not healthy. Like, I want it to feel like it's been weather beaten. When we were kind of like looking at doing this show, I was looking at a lot of kind of period dramas from the time, you know, like the piano, Draftsman's Contract, which is like an amazing film. Also, Fellini films, who for me, Fellini was a genius, an absolute genius. He did a film, he did two. He did one film which is incredible called Satyricon, and he also did Casanova with Donald Sutherland, which is also an amazing film. And I was also kind of looking at Elizabethan hair too. Eh? Apparently that's a good film, isn't it? The Victorian one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a centre parting, right, and from that centre parting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subsection a triangular parting, which is going to come back to here, and it's going to have quite a lot of product in it. It's going to be a lot of shine to this, so we can just keep this hair really very flat and really clean. I mean, and I also kind of love the idea of kind of textures that are kind of opposing one another. Like, I like the idea that this hairstyle feels at some point in time it was really styled and then it's been weather beaten, which is something we're not really taught to do as hairdressers. We're taught to do the opposite of that, which is to kind of create these kind of perfect looks. And because I work with designers and they're not particularly knowledgeable about hair, are they? Right, and they kind of throw these curveballs at you all the time. You kind of like, you kind of have to throw your kind of precision away in a sense. You have to become a different person. You have to kind of understand the way they think and the way they feel. And sometimes you get such curveballs and you're just like, how on earth do I fulfill the brief and do something that I'm happy with as a hairdresser? Because I love my craft, right? But through that, I guess through the set of rules that they have, or the way they think, it kind of pushes you to think a very different way about hair. And I think that leads you to like some really interesting places, because they're probably places that you would never thought of, or you hadn't thought of. And I love that challenge. Like I really do love it. Welcome to Hairdressing Live. I'm Eugene Souleiman. I am hopefully going to show you some wonderful hair today. Section from the corner of a triangle to the back of the ear, and we're going to create these kind of beautiful kind of like woolen-like rolls. I do believe Angelo is, have we got a powder spray? Do you right, mate? Great. I'm literally going to spray this into the roots of hair just to take any oil out of the hair and create these imperfections. Now I'll tell you what, I'll show you guys this side and I'll show you guys that side. That might work. Have we got a tail comb, Pab? I'd like to introduce you to Pablo, my right-hand man, who's a genius. And just to create this looseness and softness, I'm just going to just pull a few pieces out around the hairline with my fingers, because I don't want it to feel like it has been sectioned to death and it's too perfect. We're literally just going to back comb in to this hair. Then we're going to get our chopsticks in, fold the hair over, literally, and just roll down. To control the ends, what I'd kind of do is I'd kind of flip the end over and roll, and then flip the end back over. And just slide one grip in there. I love these because you can actually, because you've got that cushioning of back combing the hair and you've pinned it, you've secured it, so you can really start to play with shapes. And I think back combing is really quite an interesting technique, because I think a lot of people, when they're kind of back combing hair, they think about the comb doing all the work, right? Well, really, the comb's not doing all the work. The tension that you're holding the hair is really doing all the work for you. And you don't have to go crazy with it, which means you're being a bit kinder to the person. I'm rolling it up, folding it over, rolling it up, folding it over. And this really is quite beautiful hair for kind of doing a look like this, because it's like really kind of fine and delicate.